PJ Studios in South Florida. This is the Mission Debrief podcast with Call Team 6. Special ops for car dealers. Real talk on today's hot dealership topics and helping dealers nationwide.
For people involved with your team.
Someone signs up to say, I am ready to be mediocre.
Leaders are what make things happen.
Yes, you are, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned in with the Mission Debrief podcast from your friendly leadership team members here at Call Team 6, Special Ops for Car Dealers, no lead left behind. Hello again, everybody. Welcome in dealership general managers, operators, owners, GSMs, sales managers, BDC managers, and of course, all the leadership teams in the fixed ops area from all across the country in this growing community. Hello again, everyone. You are tuned in to the Mission Debrief today. I'm Jeff, one of the owners of Call Team 6, right here, coming to you today from the beautiful area of Meisner Park in South Florida, in Boca Raton. So welcome in. This is episode 21. A milestone episode is, would we call that blackjack?
Blackjack, that's right. Number 21.
Or uniform in the phonetic alphabet here. So,
yeah, you're right.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we deal in the three primary areas of challenges dealers face today, bringing you a lot of takeaways that you can take back to your teams and help you get that edge, help you get that win in today's ever-expanding and ever more challenging and evolving environment. Those are, first, you're looking at the area of new customer acquisition. We also spend a lot of time in helping you with also defection prevention. And then lastly, missed opportunity re-engagement. That's where you're going to see us spend most of our time and efforts and energies coming here today. And as we always do, with lots of opportunities for everybody that we can share for our dealer clients out there and the rest of you in the automotive community. And, the last couple of episodes have gotten a lot of traction. We've had some high-profile guests on here, and I can't wait till we get to the next one either. We want you to know that today's episode is brought to you by one of our sponsors here, Podcast Junkies. And we are in the PJ Studios here in Boca Raton. There they are. If you want the very best in podcast production, social media services, so forth, and facilities, you definitely want to look those folks up in the South Florida area. We're very proud and appreciative of the partnership that we've developed with them. As you can see Ben on there. And then also, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about and talk to and bring in today our engineer, Eric, at IamEric.com. He's not on camera today.
No camera today, guys, but you guys get a little ASMR of my voice. So how you guys doing today?
Eric, I think you just take over from here, brother. I think we need that smooth energy right now.
That's right.
I think we should give it to the car badger. Let him take over.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, thank you for all your efforts and resources
guys.
And expertise today. Yeah, we probably should check in with the car badger today at some point in time, right over my shoulder. And then the other sponsor for today's program is badco.ai. And Ryan, you can welcome in Ryan Mays, our COO and operations director. We know there are a lot of things going on with Badco AI today, including, I think, the upcoming NAMAD conference. So thank you for joining us and coming again here today to South Florida and all the way up from Charlotte via the CLT International up there and joining the CT6 Express.
CT6 Express, that's right. I'm excited to be here. I need less than half a reason to make it to Meisner Park. So. Record as many episodes as you want.
Very good, very good. I love it.
What's going on with Badco AI, one of our sponsors? Just to put it in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, well, it's exciting, and I'll be quick. We have 9 products that we've been developing and working on, and 2 of them are now live in the field, where you're being presented to the masses and ready for adoption, which is our parts engine, which allows Aria, the AI, to access your parts inventory, and a customer can completely transact via voice or text with the AI, never have to talk to anybody in parts. They can just call up, talk to the AI. Is it in stock? Yep. What's the price? Yep. Do you have any codes for any discounts or whatever? Here it is. Boom. And you can buy it. Just come pick it up. working on a delivery service, but that's for later. And then the desking engine, where we now have it out there where any customer on a dealer's website can now get a soft credit check and penny perfect payments delivered virtually by the AI from any inventory in stock in less than 4 minutes. Wow.
That's pretty incredible.
That's down to the pennies. It pulls your inventory, soft credit check, and desk the deal.
What about
right there for you?
Breaks it right down to the municipality, right? In terms of taxes.
That's all you got to do. What's your first, last name and address?
Nice.
So if you're a dealership out there and you're considering partnering with an AI solution, and I know there is no shortage of them, just ask them the one question, 2 questions actually, is one, can it actually quote a customer on the website and work a deal and help close the deal for you without a human having to be involved? Or since everybody's always on your parts phones at the parts counter every day and you miss 35 to 40% of all your parts sales going to somebody else anyway, if you could have a solution to take over those calls and handle the entire call with the parts sale, and you don't have to hire any more people to do that, those are the 2 questions you'd want to ask if anybody else can do that. I think we already know the answer to those 2 questions is nobody else can do that. So appreciate the partnership also with badco.ai for certain. And a quick shout out to Max Social and Jay, our music and introduction and outro producer back up there, doing a lot of great work for us, and everybody's really, really excited about that. And our other 2 team members here in studio, again, making the trip down for this episode, our CEO and training specialist, Mr. Ken Kingstad, one of the original BDC co-creators back in the early 90s. Absolute pleasure to have you back down again today, sir.
Always, as I say, it's always a pleasure coming down and doing these podcasts, sharing the good news. Just got back myself from the CT Express. I was down in Manhattan earlier this week, and big BMW dealership, brand new.
Brand new client, right?
New client and brand new store, New Point, right down there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, incredible, right?
What a facility, too. I saw some pictures.
500 indoor cars. It's crazy. It's like going into Raiders of the Lost Ark. As far as your eye can see, rows of Beamers stacked. It's pretty crazy. But one of the things that I find, talking and being with their team up there, too, is, again, so we're going to talk about this a little bit today, too, but leads are down a little bit, so what are we doing about it, right? How do you manage those leads more effectively? How do you get your unfair share? And I think we're going to get some really good feedback from our guest today. He's going to glean, I think, just a ton of really good information. You're going to love it. But I can't wait to go into a little bit of that, too, in terms of what I've experienced, too, just even as recently as this week with that new store we put on.
And maybe last but absolutely not least, our OG DCG himself, digital car guy, all the way from Valdosta, coming to South Florida, his old stomping grounds. We bring in also today on set is Mr. Thomas Irisitano, sir.
Woo!
Appreciate you being here.
All right. Yes, Thomas.
Tough duty.
Dropping some wisdom.
Tough duty having to come down here to Boca Raton.
Yeah, I know.
Sunshine, watching all the people.
It's
Pause before that.
And
got to keep it, PC.
Or PG.
Or
PG, yeah, because we're a PG show. But you're right. The guest we're getting ready to have on, not only is a good friend, but I get to talk to him almost daily on our clubhouse room, and he's going to share some knowledge and drop some nuggets. And dealers out there, take your pens and paper out, make some notes, because he will drop some knowledge for you and give you some insight.
Could not be more excited about that, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you again for tuning in. And Ken, I think we're about ready to kick it off, right?
Let's get into that mission launch and field report, Jeff.
We're going to move right into the mission launch and field report segment, and we're extremely excited about this in today's episode because there are high-profile individuals in the automobile business, and then there are high-profile individuals in the automotive industry. And I have to say, Thomas, thank you for arranging some time with our next guest today. I know that with everything you have going on, that's something that you had to take time to do and then arrange for and make considerations. So really appreciate that.
My pleasure, sir, as always.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and bring him in right now. You're going to be extremely excited about the next 40 minutes or so, because we're excited as well, our leadership team here at Call Team 6, to bring in from the other coast of Florida, as we are on the East Coast today in South Florida, the Executive Vice President of Cars.com, the one and only Mr. Brian Kramer, who's here with us today. We're going to bring him in right now. Check him out.
There he is.
Appreciate you guys having me on.
Brian, man, I am so stoked, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate your taking the time to be on here with us today. I know that you have a lot of things going on right now, with your role, and as you have multiple roles, and I know you have a lot of discussions with dealers all across the country. What's the latest that's going on right now? And I know that you started off right back at the beginning. I think that some of us got into the car business, and then for some of us, the car business got into us. And I think that might have been the way you got your start, starting out as a lot tech at 24,
30 years ago.
30 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, look at where you are now. It is such an impressive success story. So what's going on right now, or what do you have to share with us that's going on?
Well, I was just with some dealers yesterday and the day before, and I would say that, and I mentioned it earlier in the pre-show, I'd like to pick your guys' brain a little bit about this, because it seems like all the dealers that I'm going to, and this obviously, everybody on here has been in retail and been on both sides of this deal. So it's a fascinating way to look at it. But this week or 2 weeks, which it seems like that's how fast everything's changing, people are saying the lead count's down, but conversion's up in terms of phone calls, in terms of outreach, inbound phone calls. Cars.com actually is up 6% in terms of the lead count, which is crazy because everybody's talking about leads are down. But I don't know what you guys are seeing. But I'm also seeing some groups where they're saying it is up and some are down 40%. Most of the dealers I'm talking to, it's saying that's down 30%, but the leads they are getting are higher quality and they're converting at a much higher percentage.
So how are they dealing with that? The other dealers you're talking to right now? Trying to overcome those challenges, looking inward, looking outward, more analytics with their lead count in the CRM, or who's actually winning in that area right now?
Good question. So, obviously, if you're going to get more leads are typically a result of VDPs, which are a result of how many cars you have in inventory, how desirable your inventory is, right? So I've always said, whoever has the best inventory wins. So if you're able to source more low market day supply cars that turn more quickly with a lower average retail price, that are the right color, without a bad Carfax, low miles, right condition, obviously those cars are going to turn faster and they're going to sell more quickly. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to take a phone up on those. It's almost like you have to not mess it up. But those are the lead generation vehicles. Right. You have to have those. And a lot of people, if you're sourcing from the auction, you're relying on rental cars and that sort of thing. Those are SRP cars, not VDP cars. Those are not the ones that people are saying, you know what, I want a 2025, whatever, Kia Sorento with really high miles with a bad Carfax in burgundy or blue. Right. Green.
I think we actually have one of those in stock right now.
Yeah.
at our stores.
Yeah.
I think it's our top lead generating vehicle, in fact. Right. No. Hey, to that end, and I think that is such. I love how you phrased that and how you qualified that. Obviously, that is a key component in our efforts toward navigating these challenging circumstances. I would say, not that I'm plugging for them or anything, but I am seeing how we're combating that. I've been with Agile Auto for a good while now for our two dealerships, and they're a tool that allows you to try to match your inventory to what's selling in your market. I found is pretty doggone effective, and being able to judge from your home screen what they call your V rank. Just talking, because I know those guys, and I like that. It's the whole reason why we signed up with them for that, where that you can kind of get a gauge of your overall inventory versus what's selling, and you can either watch it inch up or down, at any one particular time of the month. I think it gives dealers, to your point, we obviously want to go for the lowest market day supply vehicles when we're looking to acquire them. And oftentimes, obviously, other people have access to that information now too. So if you're only sourcing through the auction, if you really want to get those, then obviously you're going to have to pay up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other interesting thing you bring it up with V-Rank, the world's changing so fast, and you've got 30% of the, well, you got 70% of the traffic that we're seeing is still overall SEO and SEM, but 30% is not. That number, like, well, 6 months ago, I think was 5% instead of 30%. So as AI search begins to continue up, when you're doing an AI search, you don't see a stacked rank of vehicles anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You might see 3 in a carousel you might want to consider these, but the way that those vehicles appear is completely different. And that comes down to, I mean, that's a whole different formula, right?
Right.
So you can still dominate. And I think to answer your question, Jeff, there's a lot of dealers that, and this stuff changes. It's different now than it was 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago. But as this keeps on changing, you really have to stay up with it. I think more than any time in history to be able to understand the volatility of it, not just the volatility in terms of the marketing, but the volatility in terms of the pricing. You guys are in the stores, and you're seeing this week what's happening with Highline cars and
crazy
high priced SUVs. It's insane. It's like a tinderbox, and it's happening again today in the lanes at Manheim. I mean, it's happening right now as we speak. So if you're not tuned in to that, and you don't have a good direct from consumer sourcing strategy,
right,
you could get hurt. And then you also have to know how to exit them in terms of in terms of an AI search. Or I just saw last night that Carvana last quarter, they wholesaled 53% of the cars they sourced from consumers. 53%.
I'm sure they make money on them too.
All of them.
Right.
And that's the thing, is that when we see Carvana values, I see it all the time when I'm in stores. Oh my God, that's crazy. You're playing with monopoly money. And the reality is they're not. They just know where to place those cars. So I would say to every dealer out there, if you see a CarMax or Carvana price, on an appraisal, to your point, Jeff, they're not losing money. They're making money. They're making on average $1,200 or more per car.
Well, they had certainly an impressive second quarter in their results that were just recently published a couple of days ago. So, they're up significantly in Q2 of 26 than they were in Q2 of 25. So obviously, they're doing a lot of things right. But I wanted to acknowledge your question from earlier, because not only is the perspective that you have out there important, but you wanted to know what we're seeing as well in terms of lead count. Because I'm not sure that there's a more important or impactful topic dealers are discussing right now and tuning into this, wanting to know how they can get ahead, how they can get their edge. Ryan and Ken and Thomas, I know among the 300 or so of the Call Team 6 clients across the country you're dealing with right now, what can you guys share in that regard to Brian's point about the BDC perspective from what dealers are really experiencing out there? What are you seeing, Ken?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I see. I'm seeing a lot of lead volume hasn't really dipped a ton, I would say. But what I'm seeing is in how they're being handled, the leads being handled properly. I'm finding that the customers that are the people who are just calling them for comments sake, just to call and not have a really good game plan behind that call, like an intelligent call rather than just a phone call, trying to really kind of connect with people. I think that's where it comes down to. Today, I think more than ever, what a customer is trying to do is be heard, understood, and have some active listening skills to what they're asking the dealer. So are there good leads, bad leads, in between leads? I would say yes to all of that, but ultimately what I'm trying to get across to the dealers we're working with and with our own team is to slow down and really connect with the customer. It's the relationship. AI has done an amazing thing in terms of being able to get the message out, but what it all comes back to is it still a people process we're talking here.
Amen.
So I think you have to be able to, what I've been really trying to instill with the people I've been talking to is it's not just the phone calls anymore. It's an intelligent call where we hear the customer, show the customer that we appreciate their time, and we know that people have choices when they go buy cars. How do we make that difference? So, leads are leads, I think, but ultimately people need to be heard, understood, and then educated on why that particular store is uniquely different than maybe the other stores that they're competing with that would give them the edge, the why buys, to hear them and then close them on the opportunity, whether that's an online digital retail deal where you got to get into the minutia a bit more so they become lower in the funnel rather than one size fits all. There is no one size fits all on anything today.
I really love that because oftentimes in my conversations with our team members, we have to remind people steadily and consistently that because you're always looking from the inside out, if you're an agent at a dealership, Brian, or somebody representing a BDC, you're always wanting to or you're in the habit, I should say, of looking from the inside out, and we have to remind them consistently that the conversation you're having with that customer, that prospect, is not the only conversation that they're having. That's why,
That's right.
I'm sure Brian has some really impactful commentary on speed to lead, which is a hot topic now and more important than ever. But not only that, but then what you're talking about, Ken, which is what is the quality of the conversation? Because you can turn lower lead count into more productivity if you're, like you're saying, maybe just, speed to lead is very important, but take a breath and then also realize that you have to stay in front of the customer more often because you need to be reminded they're probably having the same conversation with 4 or 5 other dealerships, right?
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
Is that a fair statement, Brian?
Well, I've got a follow-up question for Ken. So Ken, when you're dealing with all these different stores, do you have dealerships that, let me rephrase this question. I see there's 3 different answers that people get when they're trying to sell their car. Everybody has a banner out front that says "We buy cars." They have it on the website. They have it everywhere. But then where the rubber meets the road is where you come in.
Mm-hmm.
And then the customer calls up. Now you're the intermediary and all the dealers are saying they need cars. You've got a customer that wants to sell their car, but they want information.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that there's 3 different answers to that. The first one is dealers immediately want to go into where else have they shopped and start getting into the math of it instead of just going through the appointment.
Yeah.
And the second one is they want to argue about why it's not worth whatever the number is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third tranche, I would say, is that I see they just say, yeah, no problem. If it's exactly the way you described, that's what it's worth. And as long as you come in and now they're getting the appointment to do the active appraisal, which is the whole point of the thing.
Yeah.
But do you see those first 2 things in terms of pushback as well getting in the way?
Yeah, I think that goes back to educating the dealer, because I think when you get these KBB instant cash offer leads, or they're getting a customer, they're like you say, they're doing a buying center, they're trying to generate their own used car opportunities. I think what happens is I'll say this here. What's not happening, I just had this conversation with my team last week, or actually this week, and I said, that customer is asking for some help and some guidance. And so what you have to do, what I try to tell them is, it's not just regurgitating the math to them. That just doesn't answer the question. Remember, why did the person submit the lead? At the end of the day, what kind of a connection or how are you answering that question? So to answer your question, get to the point, Ken, is first of all, go back and say, first of all, thanks for the opportunity. We appreciate the opportunity you're giving us, because listen, that's a big part of the equation, and everybody wants all the money they can get for their vehicle. And so, there's a lot of tools out there, and I'm sure you're familiar with, like KBB, Black Book, other resources.
Cars.com. Instant cash offer.
Yeah.
AccuTrade.
Pending.
Yeah,
AccuTrade.
All these different
AccuTrade.
tools that we can use, and those are some of the same tools that we use at our dealership. Now, here's the reason that we're able to step up a bit more than a lot of those tools are giving you. And here's the hope for gain that I try to teach, is that because instead of going to the auction and buying these cars, we have to pay the fees and the deliveries and all the things that go into that, we'd much rather pay the extra money and give it to you. So that's why we're giving you all the money. But as long as you put in the information accurately when you filled out the information, we're going to be close, but typically we're about a 120 over KBB book values. Here's the deal. When you bring it in, we'll put our hands on it, we'll drive it, we'll make sure everything checks out, but we're going to give you all the money. See, hope for gain but we got to validate where they came from. And what dealers don't.
But do you ever have a sales manager that pushes back on you and wants to debate about why that car isn't worth it, or asking more questions? Because I think that, to me, where we originally, the genesis of this, why we're not getting more leads, the lead has turned into the trade. That's where a customer is inquiring. They want to give you their PII,
You're right.
identifiable information.
That's right.
But then we add all this friction in that's unnecessary in the middle that slows it down.
Yeah, and you're right. Because what they're trying to do, what the used car manager or the desk manager is trying to do, is they're trying to get way over their skis. And they're trying to determine whether or not their time is going to be valid to invest in it. Right. Instead of doing all that, just here, let's make the experience totally customer centered. Let's bring them in. But let's bring them in a way where they have hope, where they feel there's an opportunity there. Not to argue. Who wins an argument? The customer will always win that argument. You'll never win that. So you always want to be able to, until we get them in and find out maybe they're going to trade it in to another vehicle, or they're going to sell it outright. Either way, let's not get over our skis, I think, and oftentimes this is what I try to tell these managers when they push back like that, is, you can't sell a ghost. So what do you got? You want to put yourself...
And the whole goal is an appointment. And if you just come in to verify the condition, that is an appointment.
That is an appointment, and it's going to turn into something. Maybe it turns into a relationship, maybe it turns into some service, maybe it turns into a sale in 6 months. But we're thinking long term. We're not thinking about, again, just today. And I think that's the difference between, I think, a lot of the desk managers today, they feel like, can I get paid today on this deal? Is it worthy of my time? Or am I going to play the long game?
That's definitely a major challenge.
Big time. It's who they are. But again, that goes back to, I think...
it's how they're paid, too.
That's right, how they're paid. We were talking about this just earlier, too. Who gets promoted to these positions oftentimes are the guys who just close as many car deals, right? The guy who sells as many cars on the lot, he's a great salesman. We got to make him the manager. Well, again, is that the right choice? I don't know.
I wonder what what dealerships are doing to get out of that mindset you mentioned, Brian, because having done this for 35 years myself, many of which being responsible for used car asset for groups in general, I can see there was a time where that if I put the number on the car, that it was my responsibility. So I wanted to hedge my mindset and my bets at every opportunity. But I would say, really coming down to it today, knowing the dynamics of the market, if I'm a used car manager, what is the benefit of me creating friction in the process when, am I really going to, if I get the car, am I really taking a chance on losing the dealership money in today's climate? So I don't. It's almost becomes a vanity situation. I think for some guys, they want to try to justify their position. I may be pushing a couple buttons with that, but I say that having, still living that truth.
And I violated that. I remember grabbing the phone and like, hey, if you're not strong enough, I'll get them in. You're not giving them a number, and I was that guy, right? And I could force it with enough effort, but then in the late 2000, 18, 19, 20, before COVID, the line started snapping, and it's like I set the hook, but then I would just keep reeling it in versus letting the drag out. And I kept snapping the line because they would come in, still buy the car, but the trade magically disappeared. And the next thing you know, you've only got 3 trades for every 100 cars or 10 cars you're selling.
Right.
I can remember many times jumping in the middle of a deal and putting the extra money on a vehicle. And the first time I did it, it was, okay, smart guy, you get to sell the trade. No problem. I spent all month long. Guess what? I'm putting somebody together on that car.
Right.
Some way, some.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Because it used to be they would parachute the trade in at the end of the deal.
Yeah.
Yep.
But now they don't do that. They just call one of the national aggregators, get a number, and they're getting the trade parachuted.
They're just too ubiquitous now, and part of the culture. And I think you've been quoted, Brian, as saying that dealers only capture 1 out of 3 every trade opportunities anyway. I don't know if that's a recent quote or if those actual stats have changed.
No, it's 30. Yeah, it's 35%.
So, what are you seeing that dealers are doing and I'm going to go out on a limb and say, being a Grant Cardone disciple myself, going all the way back to the early '90s. Back then, it was we tried to keep secret so much of the numbers. All of that's the way we were taught. I'm not talking about buying a car. I'm talking about an actual prospect selling a car. But his philosophy, it was and still is, it's a matter of math. The more deals you put on paper, the more deals you're going to close. And I think that is your message that I've, because I'm a rigid follower of all of your methods and all of your commentary. It would seem as though you could extrapolate from that and actually say, well, then, if you're going to get 1 out of 3, the idea is to make more quotes to get more cars.
No, and the more cars you appraise, the more cars you will win.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where AccuTrade comes in too.
Yes, and that was designed for speed. It was designed to be able to decentralize appraisals. And I was actually, Kevin Deutsch kind of wrote me into this conversation the other day because he was saying about how he's automating his trade appraisals on the service drive. And I said, well, how accurate are these values are you finding? And he said, Brian, see, you're getting caught up in it, because he came to my store when I was at the Toyota store in Naples because he spent the day with me checking out the service drive process. And he said, you're the one that corrected me on that and said, it doesn't matter what the number is. Because to your point, Jeff, it's just about getting a number in front of them so they can give you an objection, and now you have a conversation going, right?
Right. And
then you don't have a lead problem because now you have your opportunity problem, but you've got to get over the fear of just giving people numbers. But you've also got to be, I'll put a caveat on that, because I've seen a lot of people that are like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to give everybody a number, but they still want to hold back and they want to under allow, and the new car desk under allows from the used car desk, and then the salesperson who's really strong under allows from that number, and now you're $4,000 less on a $20,000 car that you really, really need.
Yeah, 100%. And toward that point, with what you said earlier about the acquisition aspect of it, I think that you guys, I know that Call Team 6 with Ken and Ryan and Thomas, a large number of your dealership clients actually utilize the BDC agents that you have, all the U.S.-based agents on hand for this very process. So my question and my point, Brian, validating what you're saying in terms of process, if you have that conversation initially and you get some information, that's a bona fide lead. And what I've learned is that while they may not say okay to an offer today, once you've captured that information and you can implement it, because I understand some longer tail sell processes from consumers actually go up to 180 days. So if they're in our bloodstream or the dealership's bloodstream, or whatever tools you have available for your clients, Brian, to stay with them, that if you have an effective follow-up cadence, that the key thing is just to get that person's information, because then they become a lead. Then you follow up with them, and maybe they sell to you 90 days later, but it was still worthwhile offering them that number up front. Is that fair?
100%. In order to retarget somebody, remarket them on the low funnel, the people that are ready to transact, not the upper funnel discovery, consumers. They want to know, they're on the credit, filling out the credit application page or the value of my trade page. And those are the two highest intent events that happen right before a transaction. And what's fascinating to me, I was guilty of it when I was in retail, right? Because it seemed like every single appraisal that I had was a CarMax price match at one point. And sometimes on a busy Saturday, I get 20 a day. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. How are they marketing to me? And I'm trying to figure out how they're marketing. But what I didn't realize is that when we were withholding that information, either my salespeople were coaching them without, like whispering to them, on a text message on the side. Yeah, it's the path of least resistance, right? Yes. Or the customer's just doing it in the showroom while we're not giving them a number or deflecting them while we're on the phone. If you don't give them the information, just like anything else in a dealership, operationally or whatever, if you don't control the narrative, you're enabling your competitor to control the narrative for you. Right. Or your staff will control the narrative and they will find another way, but not the way you want it done. So you might as well just it's like jujitsu versus taekwondo. Just use the momentum of the consumer, which is what Carvana does. So they get all those leads and then they market to them. I wanted to capture, that's when we developed AccuTrade, we did it for sight unseen appraisals. And it sounded crazy, but I said, well, I'm just going to decentralize it and let the salespeople and the BDC send sight unseen appraisals. It was like, oh my God, you know, what are you talking about? But to your point earlier, Jeff, we went from 300 appraisals a month to 1,200 appraisals a month. And we ended up losing, we had a mistrade of like 20% back then.
Yeah.
When we started getting to 1,200 appraisals, we didn't buy another car at the auction. Our PVR doubled. Our just like what Carvana's doing right now, our wholesale increased, 4.8 million bucks a year. But at the same time, our retail volume went up 20%. Our gross went up 30% overall. Everybody made a lot more money, but I didn't have to go to the auction. I had to worry about mini deals, commissions, aged inventory, because I was sourcing all the good stuff, and I could wholesale the stuff that in the past I would be forced to retail. And the cherry on top is the fact that I had all their data. My lead count shot through the roof. My advertising cost was able to go down, and I could just focus on the lower funnel retargeting customers, and not just my customers, but my competitors' customers as well, that were getting on my website to get a trade value. We were intercepting those.
Yeah, and well, your storied success in the retail side is well known for certain, and I know that you had a lot of success in the dealerships, and that's why, to be candid, I wanted to make sure that I mentioned this, that as an old car dog myself for 3+ decades, and spending some time in really competitive markets in the Northeast and also in Columbus, Ohio. So where Ryan and I are from,
That's right.
in the Midwest, OH.
IO.
So that obviously propelled you, to where you are now. But I'm just for what it's
I
worth.
forgot you guys were up there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's been a long time since I was up there.
I spent some time in the same organization you did there in Ohio. So I got that's what caused all the gray hair. But getting there, you wear it much better than I do. Now just I wanted to make sure that I made this point which is why I'm so encouraged and excited that somebody in your position from now, like you mentioned, transitioning to the vendor side primarily. I know you probably still share a lot of insight with dealerships on subjects other than where your most of your day job is spent today, but I am excited for Cars.com in your position because they get a real quote unquote, going old school, car guy point of view, which I think is so much more beneficial to all of their clients, of whom we are one in our dealership, our little corner of the sky with our small group. Because as a dealer, as an operator, that gives me so much more confidence that the decisions that are being made at the highest level by the right people. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that in there too. I'm extremely happy, right?
I appreciate that. And I wouldn't say that I'm the one making the decisions, but they do ping me in. Like I actually was on a call this morning, twice. One of our VPs, she said, how are the dealers going to perceive this? And, that's a major focus of what we do when we're talking about all the products right now. We're going to be overhauling Dealer Inspire. There'll be news coming out on that, in the near future. I'm sure Jesse right now is like, what are you talking, not supposed to talk about that yet, but there's so many exciting things going on behind the scenes. But the main thing is that we've got to make sure that everything that we do, which has not always been the case, and it's not always the case with vendors, that it's meaningful and that you can actually connect it to a sale. And if what we're doing isn't helping you either remove friction or, drive more appointments, drive more leads, or drive more sales, then we need to regroup and figure out a way that it can do that.
I thought for a second there we were going to get some breaking news.
Yeah, we were
Thinking about myself.
He was a word. He got to catch himself.
I'm like, come on, man, it was worth the flight. Like that's the price of admission.
Hey, Eric, stop the recording for just a second. No, I'm kidding.
Pause it.
So, Brian, what's your
name?
to earlier about some of the success stories you're seeing with the service drive for the Call Team 6 clients for vehicle acquisition. I know that's you're doing a lot to help clients
Well,
with that.
it echoes what we were talking about a second ago, which is how do you just increase your at-bats? And so the way that our kind of spin on that is we don't really drive hard conversions out of the service drive, like hammering the service customers. Trade in today. He's wearing the blue shirt in the back. Go get him, guys. And the dealership pounces on him.
Right.
Because then you could also blow up a $2,500 RO in the back. So you don't know. But we set up service lane appraisals where it's just a touch the day before the service appointment, touch the morning of. Hey, listen, we just want to give you an appraisal value on your car. Are you interested in receiving that so you know where you stand with us and what we can offer? And that's been more successful with that approach because the longer you do it, the pipeline fills. Customers don't feel the presence, but they always got to go home and talk to somebody, most of them, or let's calculate this. Let's figure this out. Let's think about it. It's almost, so I was last week, I had to go to at the SeaWorld Resort. I took my family stuff down there, and we had to do a timeshare meeting, right? And I felt
I grew up going to those.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
and I felt like, is this what happened? Like when I dropped my car off for service and then a manager and 3 salespeople come by and they start hammering me? No,
All the balloons.
help me just okay, where do I stand? Is my car worth 20, 25, 30? I'll make a decision if I'm interested and I'm going to do it.
Right.
But even if they're not interested right now, and some will still transact that day. Some still will because they have a pain. But if you wouldn't have just asked the question, hey, let's just give you an appraisal, see where you're at. Are you interested? Yeah, I am. I mean, you would never have known it. Yeah. But also those people who are 4, 5, 6 months away, we're seeing a lot of success in that long tail follow-up because, for a dealership who gets 30, 40, 50, 60 service appointments a day, those people are coming back 1 to 3 times a year anyway. So you're going to see them again. And they're going to have that top of mind.
Great point.
And I would make sure that you're not, and I know this is going to ruffle some feathers, but
that's what we're here.
Under-allowing on those cars is a cardinal sin in that process. My old store is still doing 150, 180 cars a month off the service drive, but it's very, very important, critical. And I know you guys, I'm preaching to the choir, but that you just give them the competitive offer. It doesn't have to be the moon, but it has to be in the game to where it's something to think about, to where they, even if you're close and somebody else gives them a little bit more, they'll at least give you the last shot. I doubt, we did a study on a store that it's like 100 new, 80 used, and the front and back gross is about $2,500 a car. And we figured, and they were average, they're 35% trade capture, 35 trades on 100 cars. And we did the math on that scenario right there. And, they thought they were at an $800 under allowance, which is what I typically hear in a 20 group. And then I talked to NADA or NCM, and it's somewhere between $134 and $181 is what actually makes the statement. But the interesting thing is, if you can go from 35% trade capture to 50% trade capture and not touch anything else, that's the equivalent of under allowing $2,000 on every single car. Just 50%.
Yeah, good point.
So there's nothing that moves the needle more than trade capture. And I don't think that I didn't realize that it was that impactful from a financial standpoint of sourcing the right cars. And you're shooting yourself in the foot if you're stepping over dollars to pick up pennies, which is counterintuitive, and it's against a lot of people's ideologies as well. We're a little bit different. We under allow. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but there's kind of an under allowance baked in anyway. In most appraisal tools. Yeah. And plus you've got things, packs.
You're forcing them to
whatever.
I think too, though, if you're not pulling them out of the service drive, right, and you're doing a traditional, let's talk to that customer who under allows. On those cars that you're working traditionally, maybe they are trying to, steal a trade in those cases. But I look at the service drive opportunities, those are gifts. Those are opportunities to avoid having to go to the auction and buy cars, and be able to step up. I would rather, you can say hit them on the money. I would rather stretch a little bit more on those cars and have a story to tell the customer who's going to buy that car than have to go to the auction and buy something from, let's say, Florida here and ship it up to New York, right, with no story and whatever the deal is.
No transport fee, no auction fee, no PSI.
Right, yeah. So it's a straight up. it's a win. And I mean, and so stores, but I'll tell you, we pitch this. We have, we'll include that whole, what Ryan said a minute ago, we'll include that for free. Hey, well, the guy's like, well, we're handling all their leads. I'll say, well, here's an opportunity. You're not really hitting your numbers where you want to be. And I know, and I appreciate that. We'll include all your service customers if you want us to. We'll call every one of them the night before, and we'll plant the seed if you're open to that. And some guys say no. I'm like,
amazing.
Why would you say no to that?
Why would
I mean, I don't get it either.
Ryan? I think we started. How many times have we tweaked that process and that script over the last 3 years? I mean, umpteen number of times. Let's try this. Let's try that.
Yeah.
Let's tweak it here. Let's tweak it there. Look at the results. Are we getting better results? Are we getting engagement from the customer?
Well, there's also a commitment to the process. So with those tweaks, letting it play out, trusting the process, make sure you're doing it every day. That pipeline does build, right? And
do you ever find that a dealer you'll hand them a lead that's vetted, customer from your perspective is ready to go.
Yeah.
They receive the ball, and instead of them honoring the commitment that you made that they were going to appraise the car, they immediately start trying to sell them a car and ask them what they want to replace it with before they've actually
They want to call
done what they said they were going to
car
do.
deal over the phone.
Yeah.
Well, that's the number one thing.
Bringing them in.
When we launched this, Brian, I'm so glad you asked that. That's a great time to kind of go over this. It's the first thing they do, right? The first 30 days is none of these guys are really interested. Okay. Did they say yes to finding out what their car is worth? Okay. What is the old saying? Everyone has a price, right?
Right.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But we know the people who are not interested because they say, "Nah, man, I'm just here for my oil change. I want my car, and I
get my car and go."
They tell you. They have no problem because there's no obligation for them to say yes, right? There's nothing there. They just I'm not in. Okay, but literally everyone who just says, "Yeah, I'll dip my toe in the water." And then that's the first thing dealers do in the first 30 days, and we got to peel them back like you're not I hate to not use the phrase "you're not understanding" because I know they kind of do. It's just not. It's something maybe new.
It's like the scorpion and the frog. They can't help themselves.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They can't help themselves. It's their nature, right?
It's like I promise you, if you give this guy a value that makes sense, because. I don't know, man. They can sit in the service drive. They're going to get there, and where are they going to go? Carvana.com, CarMax.com, KBB. They're going to go there.
They're going to do it in your showroom.
They're going to do it right there in the service drive.
Yes.
And they're going to say, is this anywhere close to anywhere else? And to your point, the number one feedback that we get from dealers who don't participate in the way we're talking about now is they insulted me. I can't believe they lowballed me like that. They're trying to rip me off, and now I'm not even going to come back to service.
Right.
To those ones who under-allow egregiously.
And then the service director goes to the GM or the dealer and says, "You're crushing my CSI, you're crushing my retention," and then everybody hits the brakes. Say, "We're not doing this anymore."
Stop.
Right.
Yeah, but all it starts with is to your point, something very simple. Just be competitive.
And consistent, which is what you said.
Yeah. Well, here's the real secret sauce to it all is it's the person doing the actual meet and greet out there. It has to be a certain kind of you don't want some shark back there, right? That's going to kill you every time. You want someone back there who's more
altruistic.
Yes. Who is non-offensive, who's totally going to be received as a CSI kind of a person to build the SSI or CSI for that dealership. And then, oh, by the way, kind of like a Columbo, if you will, going into the car as an afterthought, and then it's just presented as oh, but if we could, would you not, and then they're like, well, yeah, if you could do that, I'd be all over it. But it's the other side of the coin where you put a shark back there and he's trying to steal the trade. Right. Then of course you're gonna.
Yeah, you can't put a car salesman back there.
No, you got to have someone back there.
That's the worst thing in the world.
Right.
Well,
like a concierge at a hotel, so you need back there.
That's exactly right.
Agree with
But
that.
it's a similar dynamic to dealerships who are being successful in a buy center in that listening to the people who really make it happen, they say that they get the best results from people doing the acquisition or the people having the conversations with the sellers, that they are not of an actual car showroom background, being employed in sales at the dealership. So I have one question left, Brian. I know that you're probably getting a little tight on time, and again, we appreciate everything. Just well, maybe two. To your point about customers are reticent to engage with selling their car to the dealership where they have their service relationship, or a dealership in general. And those are the same dealerships who have the signs out front that read, we will buy your car, we'll pay the max value. Aren't they a bit reticent to have that conversation with that particular establishment because they kind of get the feeling that they're going to try to be sold a car in the same process, and they don't really want to hear that noise at the moment? And does that translate into what you're seeing for the dealerships who are successfully executing on a buy center model, where that they are actually looking for acquisition opportunities and leads under a pseudo name or under a different quote unquote, we buy any car type of situation? Is that a real thing that where dealerships buy a different domain, they drive the seller traffic there, and they kind of come across as a third party acquisition source instead of a dealership?
So there's a few really good questions within that. So let me extract those. One of our best AccuTrade clients is over by Palm Beach Motor Cars. But the way they acquire cars, and they acquire a lot per month, is through a separate website called Cash Now Auto, to separate the two. So there's examples of that where they have an intake channel, but then there's a retail thing separately. But I would say, I was just with, it's funny because I was with Rob Dell from Bob Ruth Ford a couple weeks ago down in Marco Island, and we were having breakfast, and I was picking his brain, and I was doing to him what people used to do to me in retail. They would all come through and they're looking for this pot of gold, or this, this holy grail, easy answer, which is, it's always what Rob told me. And it was what I found myself telling everybody else. You're looking for some technology to automate it, or some simple solution, simple answer. And the answer is typically even simpler than that. As I was asking about buy centers and how would you do this and how would you structure this, and he goes, Brian, you're overthinking it, man. If you just hire the right people, you empower them, you enable them to answer all the questions so they don't have to check with a manager every 5 minutes, and you actually have a culture of acquisition. And I'm like, man, how, it's so easy to get away from. And the stores that I know that have a service drive acquisition culture, a buy center culture, anything, to your point, Jeff, it is the same mindset. But the biggest challenge that I see is that the customer's bullshit meter goes off immediately when the salesperson's looking back at the manager, or the manager. It's a culture of withholding information where the BDC can't give the information correctly. Mm-hmm. They don't honor the values. Like if your company is calling these dealers and getting these appointments, and they're not honoring the commitments with clarity that was explained to them prior to them coming in, that the handoff is not the way that it was explained over the phone, that's where it breaks down. And I'll say this, there's a couple pilot dealers that I'm working on with some pretty advanced AI, programs that they're doing. And the thing that I think everybody's going to realize is it's a big deal now what we're talking about, but it's a huge deal when it comes to AI, because when AI begins to automate more of this stuff, the way that, like an after hours and just everything on your website, right? Building trust. If you don't honor the commitments that you have, we buy cars, and then your reviews say something else, trust is trust, truth, then price. And then price is fourth on some of these LLMs. If you're not honoring the commitments that you're advertising, the AI engines don't trust you. And that's a major problem. And if the next thing that's going to get measured is agentic handoffs. So if the AI tool says, yeah, we'll get you in for service on whatever, and then the humans don't receive that correctly, which is going to be a collision, because we're not built for that for the next 10 years, probably. Mm-hmm. People need to start getting that down now, because that's going to be the deal in the future. But right now, if your lead count's down, going back to the first thing we talked about, that's most likely what I'm seeing most of the time, is that your online reviews don't reflect what you say on your website. And it's better to not say those things at all than to claim something and have reviews say something contradictory to it. If you have lead counts going down, that's probably the first place I would start.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Interesting you mentioned that, and I'm so glad to get your perspective on that with, again, wrapping up where we started, which is what's going on with the lead counts right now. Because your view on all of that seems to be more macro, which is certainly in every single case very important for dealers to make sure that they are grasping that and spending time and energy and brain power on solving for that. The other side, though, is you're and our good friend David Long, who is also a guest on here recently. I actually opened up with that question myself, interestingly enough, and it was interesting how he had a stern answer for me right out of the gate, which is in a polite manner, which is. The more challenging things get for him and his dealerships he consults with and oversees and all that, he said, the more inward we turn, because we want to try to create our own economy. So he said, if whatever's going on outside of the walls, he said, if I ask somebody within the store what is your appointment set rate, what's your appointment sold to shown and all that, and he said, nobody can tell me. He said, then we don't need to be worried about what's going on out there. In other words, as things get more challenging, the more inward he draws the attention, which it's just like that struck me.
That's controlling the controllables.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, that was, and so I really like getting your perspective on that and his as well. And I figured you would probably appreciate that. I'm sure I'm not sharing anything right now that you guys haven't already spoken about.
Oh no, and I agree with it. Actually, I was talking about the upper funnel. He's talking about. I don't disagree with anything he said.
So my point is, for our viewers, I think that they've got both ends covered now from the very best in the business. So look, I can't tell you how much, again, Brian, we appreciate this. I think this has been, we've done episodes, and I'd like to have you back on the advancements in AI. You know that one of our other companies now is fully up and running with several initiatives that are going to be vital in the automobile space, and in particular AEO and GEO. I keep track of that very, because we have dealerships with that, and so we've done a lot of, we're in that too. So I'd love to get your perspective on those two sometime. We have you back and maybe have you down here in person if you have the time.
Yeah, no, I love the format you guys have going on over there.
Yeah. So we really appreciate everything. I know you got a jet, and we really appreciate the time. I don't know if you guys have anything else for Brian?
No, I just want, again, thanks so much for the time. I know you're a busy guy, and it's a lot of the things you brought to the table and exposed, we talked about, I think really just validates a lot of things that, we're talking about every single day. But thank you for your time, for sure.
Yeah, I just have one question. Does Dealer Inspire have anything fun and exciting coming new?
There's probably some news on the horizon, but
that's
why they invite me to have a seat, is for stuff like that. I'm
sorry. we've got an AIO package that's available immediately. On Dealer Inspire, but it's the thing that I'll say, and there's a lot of, everybody's got marketing, everybody's got different solutions, technology. Obviously, we have most bases covered, but I would say that what we talked about on this call today is the most important thing. Is once that lead actually arrives, what's that handoff look like, and what's the execution look like? Because you can have all the leads in the world, but if you're not handling them correctly, to your guys' point, that's the key.
Yeah.
I still, when I get asked that question about service drive acquisition, I took a clip of Josh James from Clubhouse. And the minute they ask me about it, it's the first recording I send him. He says, okay, here's the script. You ready? Do you got a pen handy? Can I buy your car? That's it.
Right. And if I pay you more than it's worth, you sure you don't want to sell it?
Yeah.
Right.
And I love his analogy about putting your hand on the stove. So I come into the service drive.
Please tell that story, Thomas, because I just talked to him about that the other day.
I come into the service drive. You ask me if I want to buy your car. Whether it works or it doesn't work, it's okay. 3 months, 4 months later goes by. I come into your dealership. I'm in service. Can I buy your car? Sure, let's try. Rewind, old school. What if here comes the what ifs. What if I could lower your payments? What if I could this? What if I can that? And you can't do it? 3-4 months goes by. They come in again, and you go, what if I, and they go, no, not going to do that again.
Yeah, I'm not getting on that Ferris wheel.
No. So, and that was, that has stuck in my brain. Ryan, how many times have I said it?
Ad nauseum.
Well, honey, it's time for the next oil change. Well, I'll call and take care of it for you. No, don't call them back because they're just going to try to sell me again.
Yeah.
Let's find someplace else.
Yeah.
So true.
Or she wants the husband to go in to be a left tackle to be the lead blocker to keep her away from that
Yeah.
whoever's on the drive.
I'll go, but you go with me and you talk to him because I don't want to.
You run interference, honey.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
I mean, I don't know. I've experienced it. I've taken my car in, and I'm getting calls
On a car,
about trading in a car. I'm still face to face with the advisor. I'm like, can I like what?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's just it's a
the best one yet, you called me and said, I sold this car 3 years ago.
yeah,
They
that
called
one
me.
too.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well.
Or
It's a-
you're on the drive, because this happened to me, I don't know, about 2 years ago. And I said, well, what do you think it's worth? Well, there's no way to really know. Well, I was just there 4 hours ago. Well, it depends on so many different factors. We'll just
spit my
hit me with the
drink out.
factors. What do you need to know?
Yeah.
Well, it'd be a lot
Oh my
easier
God.
if you were back in here. Well, I'm going out of town for a week. Well, there's got to be another time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm like, well, I'd do it right now if you just told me what it was worth. Well, and then just all this tap dancing.
Yeah.
That's what kills us.
And alienates the customer. Like you said, their bullshit meter goes off, their ears go up, and they're like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Just be transparent.
That's it.
And
Be aggressive and transparent. Follow the process. I promise you that you're taking your 300 up to 1,200 at bats, and just following that process, being committed to it, that's the way. That's the formula.
You're creating your own economy.
I
belongs-
appreciate
Ooh,
you
I've
sharing
heard that
too.
before.
Yeah.
So Brian Kramer, Executive Vice President at Cars.com, among other things. Thank you again. We really, really appreciate your time today. Such great insight. We look forward to having you back real soon again. So thanks to you and your team for putting all this together, Thomas, everyone. We look forward to seeing you again. We really do. Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Oh, thank you. I had a blast.
Brother
All right.
BK.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the Mission Launch and Field Report segment of today's program. What an absolutely great time that we had, an informative time with Brian Kramer from Cars.com. That was great stuff, right?
I loved it. It was, I mean, so informative. I mean, it was probably, like we talked about, probably one of the best podcasts in terms of real takeaways and some real ABCs that really aren't, they're ABCs, but they're not all, if you will, what do you want to call it, common sense. I think it was really great content for
What's
sure.
the one thing Brian always brings is he brings real ideas that's being applied now that he has seen, but he brings the data and facts to back it up.
Right.
Like
35%.
What more could you want?
Yeah,
Here's how you.
It gives you the reason to execute on it, like you said, to commit to the process.
Yeah, but it's not someone coming up and just bloviating or saying this, beating from the pulpit. Like he brings the facts and the numbers and there's no reason why anyone shouldn't take something from that.
I love the fact that buying those cars off the service drive, like we talked about, allows you to go, if you had to, go deeper in terms of the trades that you are buying off the street, right? And he said $2,000 on average,
That's right.
which is pretty incredible.
Well, the big boys, the big box stores that's what they're doing, and all of their information is public. So if you can't go off of that as to whether or not it's a proof of concept, then I think you're really missing the boat. So, ladies and gentlemen, that brings up the mission wrap portion of today's broadcast. We hope that everybody got as much out of it as we did, because I know that was a ton of informative content. So, excuse me, shout out once again to our sponsors for today's program, which are Podcast Junkies at PJ Studios. And for the very best in absolutely fantastic podcast production and facilities, make sure you look them up right here in Meisner Park in South Florida in Boca Raton. Then also badco.ai, the newest venture in agentic, orchestrated, layered solutions for your dealership that you can put in place now to help win and save money at the same time. So badco.ai. And again, a shout out to Jay at Max Social back up in North Carolina, putting together our killer intro and outro and all of our clips. Really appreciate that. So, and once again, Eric, thank you so much. Our engineer, Eric at IamEric.com. He's going to sign off today on behalf of the Car Badger.
I don't have the camera on me today, but
Wiggle.
great job today, guys.
It's never not fun.
Hey, we appreciate everything. Great job back there, too,
you, thank
Eric.
you.
All right. So, everyone, thanks again for tuning into the Mission Debrief. This has been episode 21, uniform in our phonetic alphabet, as we continue on down this road of trying to disseminate to our viewers and all dealership personnel the very best in information and takeaways that you can apply today. So, everybody, take care out there. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Mission Debrief from Call Team 6, Special Ops for Car Dealers, No Lead Left Behind. Everybody have a great close to the month. We'll see you again real soon.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode and invite you to like, share, and follow the Mission Debrief podcast on YouTube and Spotify. Plus, catch episode clips on all socials. Call Team 6, No Lead Left Behind.